You ever seen 5 headstones, lined in perfect symmetry, all bearing the same name, same death age, and buried beneath the same tree? That's not coincidence, that's ritual. In the rolling hills of colonial Virginia, where the fog drips from the trees like something alive, there lies a plot of land that even the locals avoid after dusk. They call it Ashwood, but historians, they call it cursed, because here, across 3 generations, 5 sons of the same bloodline died at exactly 21. No disease, no war, no famine, just silence. Then death. And if you think this was misfortune or some tragic twist of genetics, you haven't read the journals, you haven't seen the ink-stained diagrams locked inside the Aldermore study, you haven't heard what the eldest whispered before he died, something about the inheritance of rot. This wasn't misfortune, it was designed. Every son was a clock, and when it struck 21, the pendulum stopped, not by chance, but by the hand of the man who gave them life, and decided they weren't fit to take his place. You ready to see what real control looks like? Good. We're going down, one revelation at a time. Edmund Aldermore didn't build an empire. He engineered it, like a weapon, precision-calibrated and blood-oiled. When he stepped off the ship from Bristol in 1682, he brought more than silver and seeds. He brought ideology, a belief that the only safe legacy was the one you buried with your own hands. He bought 1,500 acres on the Appomattox River and named it Ashwood Manor, not for the beauty of the land, but for the ash left after something burns. That was always his vision: torch the old, control the new. Even his mansion reflected it: 3 stories, all built to his specifications, brick walls thick enough to muffle screams, a study with a hidden drawer deeper than any ledger, and inside, not business records, but timeline. Every child's birthday, every developmental milestone, every deviation from obedience. Constance, his wife, thought he was just a meticulous patriarch, but Edmund wasn't documenting growth, he was tracking divergence, calculating risk, because by colonial law at 21, each son gained legal power, and legal power meant danger to his property, to his philosophy, to him. So Edmund built something darker than a tobacco fortune. He built a family system designed to expire. To the outside world, Edmund Aldermore was the picture of paternal devotion. Stern, yes, but honorable. The kind of man invited to governorship dinners, whose name was etched into ledgers beside the richest tobacco barons of Virginia. But inside the walls of Ashwood Manor, a clock was always ticking, and it always struck at 21. The first son, William, was charming, thoughtful, too thoughtful. He asked questions about the plantation's labor force. He wanted reforms, less cruelty, more dignity, dangerous ideas in a world built on blood and control. Edmund marked it down, just like he marked the calendar. April 15th, 1707, the boy's birthday, the boy's death day. The second son, Thomas, learned fast from William's accident. He masked his ideals behind obedience, but the calendar came for him too. 1710, a horse fall, broken neck, witnesses, none. Then James, then Samuel, then Benjamin. Each boy died on or near their 21st birthday. No son inherited the land, no son broke the chain. And yet, not one investigation, not one accusation. Why? Because power doesn't just buy silence, it manufactures tragedy, it carves your crimes into coincidence. 5 deaths, 5 stones, 1 father, and a truth buried deeper than any grave. In 1987, during a renovation of the Henrico County Courthouse, workers uncovered a sealed drawer behind a crumbling fireplace. Inside, a weather-worn journal bound in dark calfskin, its pages coded in a cipher that took linguists months to unravel. The author, Edmund Aldermore. The contents, not business records, not prayer, a system. Every entry was clinical, cold, exacting. Each son was referred to by number, not name, and beside each, a schedule. Behaviors logged, ideal death windows marked, followed by detailed schematics, locations on the estate where accidents could be plausibly staged. The oldest barn, the south orchard well, the east stables. In one entry he noted, T3 continues to vocalize doubts regarding ownership morality, must accelerate termination window, consider cellar stairwell option, study stress on beam integrity. This wasn't punishment. It wasn't even emotion. It was legacy control. Edmund believed his wealth, his ideology, his name, could only survive in stasis. Any deviation, any son with a conscience was corrosion, and corrosion had to be purged. When the cipher was cracked, a single phrase repeated across the pages, written in Latin like a prayer. In dominatu perpetuo mors est justitia. In eternal control, death is justice. Constance Hartwell, Aldermore was no fool. Her lineage traced back to Jamestown. Her father was a magistrate, her mind sharp as the silver cross she wore tucked beneath her dress. But even the brightest minds can be blinded by love, by tradition, by carefully orchestrated lies. In the early years, she believed Edmund, believed the accidents, the grief, the hollow-eyed mourning, but after the second son died, something inside her shifted, and by the time Samuel was lowered into the ground, Constance began keeping her own records. She noticed the patterns, the odd timing, the absence of witnesses, the way Edmund's demeanor changed in the weeks leading up to each birthday, more meticulous, more distant, more resolved. She began watching him, quietly, the way he spent hours alone in the study, the coded diagrams he destroyed in the hearth, the way he visited the family crypt long after midnight, not in grief, but in silence, listening, as if expecting something to answer. She found one of his tools once, tucked beneath the floorboards of the chapel, a small metal brace, designed to snap beams from below. Constance knew what it meant, but she also knew the law, knew no one would believe a widow in waiting. So she waited too, and prepared. Ashwood Manor was more than a home. It was a machine. Every hallway, every room, every stone laid not just for comfort or status, but control. And at the heart of that machine, Edmund's study. Visitors saw polished mahogany, ledgers, colonial maps, but hidden beneath the floorboards, beneath the rug worn down by decades of pacing, was a hatch, locked from the inside. No servants knew of it, no architects remembered designing it, but Constance found it, and what she found inside wasn't just incriminating, it was damnable. Shelves lined with bone-white journals written in the same cipher, each volume labeled with a son's initials and dates, a table scratched with deep grooves as if from panic-struck fingers, mechanical devices, small cruel things, crafted for failure, cut harness buckles, hollowed stairs, weight-triggered supports, and in the far corner, a mirror, framed in iron, unbroken, facing the wall. Behind it she found the most chilling item of all, drawings, dozens of them, of the manor, of each son, of graves, measured precisely. This wasn't control anymore, this was obsession, a doctrine. Edmund didn't see his sons as successors, he saw them as variables, elements to be tested, then erased. Ashwood wasn't a home. It was a ground. Edmund Aldermore wasn't just trying to preserve wealth, he was preserving ideology, his own twisted gospel passed through flesh but not meant to survive it. His journals revealed something deeper than economics, something theological. He wrote of the rot of mercy and the weakness of the air. He believed that power, true power, required purification, that a family line could carry not just blood, but dilution. In one letter, never sent but folded tightly in the corner of a locked drawer, he scrawled, "My sons are vessels, and not all vessels are meant to hold fire." He saw them not as people, but as containers, tested, judged, and destroyed if flawed. He referenced ancient rites from Roman law and even darker philosophies from obscure European texts, books about bloodline sacrifice, primogeniture distortions, and a belief that the patria potestas, the father's authority, was not just legal, but divine. It wasn't madness. It was belief, cold, methodical, and centuries old. And here's the part that still unsettles modern scholars. Edmund never tried to escape consequence. He didn't run. He didn't hide. Because in his mind, he wasn't guilty. He was chosen. Julian, the last of them. Quiet, artistic, frail by comparison to his brothers, but sharp, observant, too observant. As his 21st birthday approached, the household changed. The maids whispered less. The study stayed locked. Edmund began fasting, claiming, "Discipline of the body sharpens the bloodline." But it was Constance who saw the truth. The rituals were beginning again. Julian had always feared the manor, he told his tutor once. "The walls hum at night, as if the house remembers things I don't." And by late summer, the humming grew louder. Paintings in the hallway were rearranged, his bedroom lock jammed without cause. He awoke more than once with blood on his fingertips and no memory of dreams. Hen came the staircase collapse. Just a misstep, Edmund claimed. Julian limped for a month, but it was Constance who found the notch in the railing, chiseled out just deep enough to give under pressure. That fall she did something no Aldermore had ever done. She gave Julian the truth, showed him the journals, the diagrams, the tools, the hatch. And for the first time in the Aldermore legacy, a son faced his birthday not as a sacrifice, but as a weapon. October 12th, 1845. Julian's 21st birthday. The manor was quiet. Too quiet. No servants, no supper. Only candlelight flickering through the long halls and the scent of damp wood and oil, as if the house itself had been holding its breath. Constance stayed in her room, clutching a pistol that hadn't been fired since the war. She knew what Edmund would try. She also knew Julian wouldn't run. That night, Edmund summoned him to the study, not with a command, but an invitation, handwritten, elegant, ironic, the same call each son received. But Julian didn't come unarmed. He carried the smallest of the hidden tools, an iron spike from the hatch, shaped like a writing quill. Inside the study, they spoke, quietly, almost civil. Edmund poured wine. Julian didn't drink. Then Julian asked the question no Aldermore had dared in 4 generations. "Was it worth it, father? Killing your own to keep your name clean?" Edmund didn't answer with words. He moved toward the drawer where he kept the blade. Custom, ritual, precise. But Julian was faster. What happened next remains blurred in the surviving reports. Only one fact is certain. By dawn, the manor was silent, and Edmund Aldermore was gone. No body, no blood, no confession. When constables arrived at the Aldermore estate 3 days later, they found the study intact, papers undisturbed, wine glasses full. But no sign of Edmund, just a shattered clock on the mantel stuck at 12:07 a.m., and a smear of ash where the carpet met the hearth. Julian claimed nothing, said only, "He's not here anymore." The townsfolk speculated madness. Constance remained tight-lipped, and the servants, those who hadn't already fled, left the following week. But Julian had changed. He did not weep, did not flee. He stayed in that manor, restored its west wing, and burned the family journals, except for one. A ledger he kept in a locked drawer, marked with a red ribbon and a single Latin phrase, sanguis in potestate, power in blood. But the story doesn't end with Edmund's disappearance, because Julian made a pact, not one written in blood, but in silence. He vowed to never marry, never sire sons, never allow the Aldermore name to pass on. He said it wasn't to break the curse, it was to finish it. And yet, the line didn't end, because someone else had already taken the name. 3 years after Edmund vanished, a letter surfaced, postmarked from Charleston, unsigned, and addressed to Mrs. Constance Aldermore. It read, "Your husband's sins did not die with him. One seed was sown in secret. You will know him by the scar he carries and the name he will not speak." Constance turned pale when she read it. She burned it within the hour. But Julian, he didn't blink, because he already knew. The last time Edmund had left the manor, just months before Julian's birth, he travelled alone for 11 days. No records, no receipts, no reason. But in the surviving pages of the final journal, written in a manic scrawl, was a single line repeated over and over. The legacy must split to survive. That hidden heir, half Aldermore, half Shah, Dow, surfaced years later under a false name. A travelling scholar, quiet, unsettling, obsessed with the ancient rites of Appalachia and bloodline alchemy. He didn't claim the manor, he didn't claim the name. But wherever he went, death followed, unexplained, ritualistic, always a male, always aged, 21. Julian knew he wasn't the last. The curse hadn't been broken, it had been released. He called himself Isaac Rowan, but no record of his birth, no parish, no family line, no origin traced. He arrived in towns just before harvest, took lodging in the quiet corners, above stables, in abandoned mills, even once beneath a chapel. Wherever he went, boys turned men, and then turned cold. Locals whispered that he studied soundless death, cases where men died with eyes wide open, no wounds, no blood, just frozen horror, their hearts untouched, their minds shattered. The coroner in Knoxville recorded one such victim, facial expression consistent with final terror, as if he saw his own future claw its way through his eyes. Isaac was seen that week, alone, sitting beside the body at midnight, not praying, not mourning, just watching. He always left quietly, before sunrise, never returned. By 1872, 8 deaths matched the pattern, and each victim, a young man, age 21. In nearly every case, they shared one feature, a strange discoloration beneath the left rib, like a brand, faint, circular, burnt inward. Julian, still alive then, tracked the deaths on his wall, a map of red pins across the south. He didn't fear Isaac. He recognized him, because Isaac bore the same birthmark Edmund once had. Julian never left the manor after 1869. He boarded the gates, closed the shutters, and dismissed every servant. He lived in silence, with only that wall of pins to speak back. Each red pin marked a death, a boy, age 21, always male, always sudden. But by 1875, there were 21 pins, one for each year since his twin brother Edmund had died. Julian didn't see coincidence. He saw a design. Every 7th death was closer, closing in, spiraling toward him like a slow-moving storm, and in the center of the spiral, Aldermore Estate. Julian began writing again, fevered pages that no one would read, diagrams of human veins overlaid on blueprints of the house, Latin incantations beside architectural notes. A journal entry reads, "The house is a body. Each son is a nerve. When all are severed, the eye will open." He believed the curse was a mechanism, a machine, activated by sacrifice, powered by bloodline, designed by someone else. And Isaac, if that was even his name, wasn't a rogue heir. He was a keeper, a guardian of a clock older than time. The Aldermore line wasn't cursed by fate. It was being harvested. In the winter of 1876, Julian Aldermore stopped writing. He started digging. He believed the manor itself was hiding the final seal. Beneath the old stone library, where the floor had always sounded hollow underfoot, He found it. A trapdoor made of ironwood, sealed with wax and bound by 5 copper nails. Behind the door was a staircase, spiral, carved not by tools, but by hands, raw, worn, ancient. He descended with a lantern, left the journal open beside the hole. What he found below was not a crypt nor a cellar. It was a room built to remember something. The walls were engraved with the names of the sons, all Aldermore blood, even the lost ones, even the unnamed. In the center, a slab of black stone, veined with something gold and still warm. Up, on it, a sigil. Interlocking circles, one for each son. But one circle remained uncarved, empty. Julian whispered his name aloud. The room responded. The stone split. A draught of cold air rose, and then a voice, not loud, not angry, just patient. It said, "Welcome home, lastborn. Time ripens in blood." Julian never climbed back up, but the journal above was no longer empty. The handwriting in the journal changed, sharper, older, like it had remembered itself through a different hand. It read, "The sons are not victims, they are keys. Each death a turning of the lock, each life a delay. The family was chosen because they were constant, obedient to tradition, stubborn to modernity, predictable, easy to bind." Julian's final entry, dated exactly on his 21st birthday, was just 2 words written over and over until the ink ripped through the page. It opens. That same year, the Aldermore estate was declared abandoned. Locals avoided the grounds. No one bought the land. Even thieves who entered to steal iron or timber were never seen again. And then came 1901. The manor burned to the ground without spark or storm. No lightning, no accident, just a plume of black smoke rising at dawn, silent and perfect. When townspeople arrived, there were no flames, just smouldering stone, and at the center, the staircase, still intact, still spiraling downward. No bodies, no bones. But a new sigil was found, scratched into the earth beside the ruin. 7 circles, all complete. And beneath them a phrase, "Time has fed, the door is ready." You were never meant to hear this. The Aldermore line was a ritual, not a family. Each generation bred not to live, but to expire on time. The sons weren't cursed. They were groomed, watched, preserved like cattle until the precise moment of ripeness. And the deaths, identical at 21, weren't random. They were offerings. To what? The journals call it the patience beneath. A presence without body, only memory. An observer that lives not in space, but time itself. Bound beneath the manor by a forgotten priesthood. It required cycles, predictability, obedience, and in exchange, it promised something monstrous. Escape from death. Julian thought he could outwit it, understand the pattern and break it, but in the end, he fulfilled it perfectly. His birth was the final key. His death, the unlocking. The ruin still exists. The staircase still breathes. And every 21 years since 1901, there are reports. A tremor in the soil, clocks stopping in nearby homes, a boy gone missing. Always 21, always alone. Some say the patience beneath never left. Others say it has, and it's watching for bloodlines that still obey the rhythm. If you've ever felt like time is hunting you, it probably is.